Hey, everybody. Welcome to our latest episode of Frenemies. Joined once again by David Swor. I am DJ Cox, and this one is going to be fun because Mr. Yankee over there is a big-time fan of these Boston Red Sox. Tell us a little bit about that, David. How big of a fan are you?
Do we have to do this? I mean, really? Come on. I mean, of all the teams, do we have to do this one?
I'm telling you, I love the Boston Red Sox.
You would. You would love the
do.
Red Sox.
I do. They're very similar to the Cubs in breaking like a 900-year-old curse not too long ago. So I felt for them as like the AL team that was like the Cubs the most. And, you know, they always battle the Yankees, and you always got to root for the Red Sox. So kind
Only
of a
difference
fan,
between
David.
them and the Cubs are the Cubs are lovable losers, and the Red Sox just suck.
David, I want to harp on this for just a second. So, when did your hate for the Red Sox come in, and how, and just kind of give us
2004. It's easy, real easy. 2004. I hated that team so bad, the idiots, and that was perfect for them. I hated Pedro Martinez. I hated Johnny Damon. I hated Dustin Pedroia. There was just like, with the exception, I kind of like David Ortiz, but I hated Manny Ramirez, that whole routine. So before that, honestly, I didn't have a huge hatred for the Red Sox. But that year, and I'm not just talking about when the Yankees gave away the series. I'm talking about that whole year. Just there were so many players on that team that I couldn't stand.
Didn't Johnny Damon become a Yankee though?
Yeah, I was totally against that. It took me a little while to warm up. Johnny Damon actually had some decent seasons in New York, but man, I hated that. And what I hated worse was the all-time worst signing in Yankees history. I actually called it out on Facebook, DJ, the day it happened. Do you remember when the Yankees signed Jacoby Ellsbury?
Oh man,
they're just now past that contract. Matter of fact, I think they're still paying him this year. Still paying that dude.
Is he in the league anymore?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't think he is, man. I don't know of him being on a team right now. That would be interesting to know, but that was a terrible signing. You're totally right about that. I looked at his number.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I looked at his numbers not too long ago, to be honest with you, just kind of looking back on that because for some reason it popped in my head one day how bad of a signing that was, and I looked at his career numbers, and I was just like, that guy stole a lot of money too, man. Must be nice.
There was no reason for the Yankees to do that. I mean, for a little context, they already had Brett Gardner, who was basically the same player. And Ellsbury was coming off an average season. And if I remember right, the Yankees signed him like right out of the gate in free agency. Like that was the guy that they were targeting. And, really had nobody bidding against him. And, I mean, I'll just never understand what was going through Cashman's head. Brian Cashman, if you're watching this episode, I'm sure you are because you love to know what we think about baseball. But you're going to have to update me on what in the world was that. Now, you've made up for it with a lot of great signings, but that was the worst signing probably in baseball history. It was awful.
Well, Homer Bailey is the worst signing in baseball history. Let's just be honest.
But at least he's playing.
I don't know how, though. Man, how is he still playing, David? I even looked at his number after a Reds podcast the other day. His ERA is like 8 for 5 years in a row. It was terrible. Jacoby Ellsbury is up there too. I'll give you that. Just awful signings. So, David, as much as this pains you, we got to go to the 2019 Red Sox and give me a little bit of a recap. I know this is hard for you to do, but
actually, this is not. So the Red Sox were a huge disappointment. They came out, they were the 2018 AL East winners. They came out of the gate, really with the same team back. A lot of the same players. Mookie Betts was back. They had Chris Sale coming back, David Price. But you know what? The injury bug bit them. And it was the greatest thing that ever happened in sports. No, I'm just kidding. But, Sale went down or had a rough season. Price really wasn't that good. And just one by one, these players started kind of going down. Now, their offense was awesome and is awesome this year. Xander Bogaerts had a bust-out year Devers had a bust-out year. Of course, now they've traded Betts, which we'll talk about that a little while. That's one of the worst trades I've ever seen. But the Red Sox had a good team, but they just kind of ran out of gas. The injuries were hard on them, and they couldn't keep up. Ended up in third place, which obviously was a big disappointment. Now they've lost their manager. That's got to hurt. So we'll see what happens. Dave Dombrowski ruined their farm system just like he does every other team. And so, we can talk about their offseason a little bit in a minute. But what do you think about the 2019 Red Sox?
So, yeah, I mean, I agree. You kind of hit the nail on the head as far as Sale going down. And then he had a 4.40 ERA, which I believe is his worst of his career. And Chris Sale normally is not even close to that, and he dominates. And he had a tough year, obviously. His arm wasn't there. Obviously, he had some problems going on in there and ended up getting Tommy John. So, he's obviously gone for the 2020 season too, which hurts him as well. But David Price was not good. Rick Porcello was awful with a 5.52 ERA. We got the Rick Porcello that we're used to instead of the Cy Young guy for 1 year. He just reared back his ugly head and pitched awful again. And Uvalde ended up hurt, and he had a 5.99 ERA. And
how bad was that?
Yes, terrible. And this is their ace this year, and I'm not a believer, man. I'm really not. And he just had a really, really rough year, and they're relying on that guy to be their number one. And as you know, David, he was on the Yankees for a little while there, and I'm pretty sure he had one good year, and then the rest of it, not so much. So, I mean, I don't know if you can go with that guy as your ace, you're in some trouble, and we'll get to that part. But they obviously had an awful pitching year last year, and we'll talk about this a lot more in this episode too. But what an awful offseason with the manager going down and trading one of the best players in the game for Alex Verdugo, which Alex Verdugo is a good player, don't get me wrong, but I do not understand it, especially with where their offense is. If they would have kept their offense as is and gone after some pitching this offseason, this would be a contending team. There's no doubt about it. They did not do that, and they are in a big mess right now with their pitching. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this team does in 2020, because a team with a great offense and awful pitching might just balance out to a 500 team or a little bit below, to be honest with you. So, yeah, David, what do you got for 2020 strengths of this team?
Well, it's still the lineup. And, even without Mookie Betts and putting Verdugo in for him, this is still a great lineup. And it's a scary lineup. I mean, they can hit with anybody. It's as good as anybody. Devers is a stud. Like I said, Bogarts is a stud. They even got a guy on the bench that's a good hitter. And I'm interested in how they're going to find playing time for him, and that's Chavis. And they probably got the best DH in baseball, one of the best, in J.D. Martinez. And so, man, they're going to be able to hit with anybody. It's going to be, can they find somebody to get some people out? Because, like I said, their offense is as good as anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We'll throw some numbers at you here because their lineup is stacked. Christian Vasquez last year from the catching position, 23 and 72, 320 on base. Xander, to me, is the best shortstop in the American League. What an awesome season he had. He was an MVP candidate last year. 33 bombs, 117 ribbies, 309 average, 384 on base. Rafael Devers, 32 bombs, 115 ribbies, 311 and 361 on base. Jackie Bradley, 21 and 62 out of your center fielders, pretty good. Did not hit very well at 225, but got on base at a 317, which isn't bad. And then JD, 36 and 105 with a 304 batting average and 383 on base. So as you see, David, there's a lot of guys there that hit a lot of bombs and hit over 300, which is very rare, to be honest with you, that a team has that many guys that do that. And they were just hitters, man. They really were. A lot of guys hit for average and power and drove in a lot of runs. And when your lineup's doing that, man, it's a shame that this team finished as low as they did last year. And it all goes back to that pitching, man, because their offense was there. And they had Mookie last year too, and Mookie was 29 and 80. We didn't even mention him with a 300 batting average. So he did his part too. And, man, they were just loaded. And, they're loaded this year. So, great offense indeed. So, which leads us right to our our next point, which we've already mentioned, but talk a little bit more about that 2020 weakness.
So, DJ, I have their depth chart pulled up in front of me here. And here's the rotation that is on MLB right now. Nathan Eovaldi, Martin Perez, and Ryan Weber. And that's it. That is what they have right now as a depth chart. You know, Edward, what? Yeah, it's just like, what? They only have 3 starters right now listed. Martin Perez, you know, he was a big prospect at one point. I'm believing his ERA was in the 5s last year. Ryan Weber, I don't even know who that is. I think he was on the team last year. And then we got Eovaldi, he was 5.99. I have no idea how the Red Sox are going to get anybody out. Even their bullpen is shaky. Brandon Workman had a nice year last year. He's going to be closing. Matt Barnes has had moments. Ryan Brazier had a decent season last year. But none of these guys are like lockdown relievers. You don't see a long guy in there that can get them innings, because obviously Eovaldi doesn't normally go deep in starts. Martin Perez doesn't normally go deep in starts. So their pitching is a mess. And while we're here, DJ, talking about this weakness, what in the world is Red Sox management doing? What are they doing? So you got this great lineup, and several of those guys are young. I mean, honestly, they got a World Series lineup. Let's be honest about it. You have one of the best players in baseball, some years the best, and to dump salary, basically to get rid of David Price, you trade him, and you get 2 nice prospects back. But, man, what if they just would have waited? Of course, now this season with COVID, maybe it's looking a little bit smarter. They couldn't have traded him mid-season. But I just don't understand it. They're just a pitcher or 2 away. Eduardo Rodriguez, he'll be back. You know, he's had COVID, and he had a nice year last year, won 19 games. But, you know, a couple more pitchers, and, man, this team is tough, especially in this sprint. Now we've just found out this week everybody's going to get a trophy. So if you play this year, you're going to get to make the playoffs somehow. 16 teams, half of baseball. I hate it. Can I just throw that out there? I hate that.
I hate it.
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful, but it is what it is. Maybe fans will be excited. I might feel different later. But to answer your question, long story short, the pitching from top to bottom is just weak. It's awful.
It is, and I'm going to reiterate that fact and talk a little bit more about that too. Chris Sale, as we mentioned, is out all season with Tommy John. So this rotation is just awful is a good word for it. And that's funny that they only list 3 starters on the list right now. The 4 and 5 guy that we didn't even mention, Brian Johnson, career 7-9, 474, and Matt Hall, 0-1 with a 948, were listed on Fangraphs as their 4 and 5 starter. And neither of those guys have any experience in a rotation. That's probably why they're not even on one right now on ESPN's. But you only got 3 guys that are considered starters. You know, Martin Perez is about a 500 pitcher in his career, but he's got a 4.72 ERA. So these guys just, I mean, Ryan Weber's 3-9 with a 5.04, and then Nathan Eovaldi's 46-54 with a 4.30. And in 2015 with the Yankees, I kind of want you to add a little bit to this. He was 14-3 with a 4.20. So that is considered his only good year. And David, you think that's a little bit sugar-coated. So what is the story behind that season for him?
So the Yankees traded for him in the offseason. And at the time, you know, I was really excited. He was young. I'm thinking he was only like 24, 25 years old when the Yankees got him. And he had put up some good numbers, ERA-wise, innings-wise, with the Marlins the prior 2 years. What's that noise? Is that you?
I don't know. No, it's not me.
Do you hear that?
I do. You got a game going on or something there.
Hold on a second.
Some highlights going on, rolling through there.
Yeah, I had ESPN up. Sorry about that. I thought that was you. I thought you were playing a home run hit off of Eovaldi or something. I was like, what is that? But anyway, to back up, even that season, 14-3, he was real uneven. The Yankees, as usual, bailed him out of some tight spots. One game, you know, he would pitch 6 innings and pitch halfway decent. The next game, he couldn't get out of the 4th. He was a guy that just labored a lot all season. He throws 100 miles an hour. We saw that when he was in relief in the playoffs for the Red Sox a couple years back. So he's got the talent, but, man, he just cannot put it all together. And to throw 100 miles an hour, look at his strikeout numbers over his career. I don't have them in front of me, but he's not a big strikeout guy, which tells me his stuff's just not that good.
Yeah, so it's a weakness, and that's your ace, and, I'm just not a fan. I really am not. He would barely make a rotation for a good team, let's just be honest with you. So I just cannot believe what this team did. One of their other weaknesses, too, is Dustin Pedroia, one of their captains for all these years. He hasn't been able to come back from that knee. When Machado slid into him the last couple of years, he's been hurting from that, and finally is probably done as far as his career goes. And that's sad to see from a Boston Red Sox fan's perspective. This is their dog for a lot of years, one of their top players, and it's sad to see him go. So that's kind of a weakness from a leadership standpoint. He'll still kind of be there, but it's a little bit harder to be a leader when you're actually not out there doing it. As it's just, if you're just kind of sitting there and not doing much, it's a lot harder to bark at somebody or be a leader as much as you can be. So that's kind of sad, but yeah, nothing's more sad than their pitching rotation. That's for sure. So what do you got as far as 2020 best case scenario?
I'm going to say best case scenario is probably third place. I just don't think there's any way they pass the Rays or the Yankees. And I think there's more bottom. There's more chance for bottom, to be honest with you, and that we can talk about that in a second. But I just don't see any possible way with that pitching staff, and you look at the Rays and you look at the Yankees and their pitching staffs, that they could end up any better than third.
100% agree. Third place is the ceiling. There's no way they pass the Rays or the Yankees with that rotation. With the offense, I do think they can finish third, just being honest. And with the playoffs expanding so much this season, I just still don't see it. I don't see them finishing in the top two in the division, which you have to do is be a top two team in your division. They will not be. So then you got to be one of those two teams in the other divisions that gets there. So, I mean, if I'm picking them third, they're going to be really close. But I still think that the Central and the East are the Central and the West are going to provide the two teams in third place that'll make the playoffs, just being honest, because I think that those teams that are going to finish third in those two divisions are better than the Red Sox. So I do see them missing, but finishing third in division for the best case scenario. You just can't overcome that pitching, man. And they're not going to be able to get anybody, so they're kind of stuck. So it's really tough, man. So what do you think as far as weakness, 2020 worst case scenario goes?
So I don't think they can fall below the Orioles. I don't think that's possible.
No.
The Orioles, yeah, they're kind of the bad news bears. But I think it's more likely that the Blue Jays, I think, are going to overtake them this year. I really believe that.
Yeah.
I think it's the Yankees, Rays, Blue Jays, and then the Red Sox and the bad news Bears. So,
that's a good.
I think this team could implode pretty fast. I mean, they got a manager who's trying to take this team and do something with it. I mean, it'd be easy to lose control of this team and just watch them check out.
I'm telling you, man. The bottom is four. They will not finish below the Orioles. That team, man. Me and you were talking just a minute ago, and this is the truth. Okay, and I've looked at this too, so I agree 100%. If you take the Yankees bench players and put them out there in any spot you want to on defense, and the Yankees bench, and put them up against the Orioles starters, you're taking the Yankees bench. So
every time. Hey, I saw somebody line it up today on Twitter. They took the Yankees bench and put them in positions down through there, and there's no way you don't take it. There's no way. Because at least they have some interesting players. Man, can you imagine being stuck paying Chris Davis? And I think they got to pay him for another – no, this is his walk year. That dude has been horrible.
Awful hitter, man.
And
he's historically bad hitter.
And they have no choice but to run him out there. I don't know what happened to that dude. There was a year he hit like 50 bombs. But they honestly don't have anybody else. They have no one else that could give you any hope. No one.
No, they really don't. So you got the Red Sox in 4, and the Bad News Bears are stuck in 5, man. There's no way. So that would be, to be honest with you, though, it would be a pretty terrible season for the Red Sox to finish 4th. Let's just be honest. They're not they're not a fourth-place team. They should never be a fourth-place team with the amount of money that they spend. I just don't know what they're doing, man. I really don't. I'm having a very hard time with this team putting out that offense every day. They're going to have to – David, they're really going to have to win games like, 8-7 or, 9-5, or they got to score a lot of runs, and that's a lot of pressure to put on your offense. It really is, and they're not going to produce every night. And this is a sprint, so that's the problem, If your bats go cold for a week, which happens all the time, you're in some deep trouble because you're going to be giving up runs, no doubt. So they're in some trouble, man. They really are, and they're relying way too much on that offense with this pitching. So go ahead.
Before you move on there, the Red Sox have a great offense. Listen, I've said that. I think they have one of the better offenses in the league. But so do the Yankees. So do the Rays.
Yeah.
Toronto.
Yeah.
So does Minnesota. So do the Rangers. So does Oakland. And so, you can go down the list. And when you think about offenses, like I said, it's pretty good. But they have zero pitching. Zero. So I cannot see them making the playoffs. I just don't think it's going to happen. I
really don't either. Not with that staff. You're totally right. So, position battles, you got anything?
Well, I want to double back to Chavis there a little bit.
Sure.
Man, good player. And I'm sure he's going to get some platoon bats here and there. He had 18 home runs last year. Certainly, they would have to find a place to play him. Peraza is going to be playing second, which I'm sure that's a defensive upgrade from Chavis, and they're going to need that because everybody's going to be hitting the ball. And the other thing I think is interesting is center field. Jackie Bradley is one of the top fielders in the league. That's undeniable. He's so much fun to watch play, but he doesn't hit well. And meanwhile, in the offseason, Boston went out and got Kevin Pillar, who hits well, who fields well. And so it makes you wonder if they're going to platoon there. He's a righty. Bradley's a lefty. And so those are a couple position battles besides all the pitching that I would watch out for.
Man, you're totally right. All that pitching is a mess. I don't even know how to talk about the position battle of the pitchers because there's so many options that they've got. So I could read their entire bullpen to you and say that that could possibly be the 3, 4, and 5 starters, because by the time it's all said and done, that could be the situation where they're using 21 starters like Toronto did last year and breaking records for most starters used in a season, even though it's 60 games. So I don't know, man. But yeah, that's definitely one of them. And then I could not agree more with Pillar, man. And to be honest with you, man, I know Jackie Bradley's a good defender, but Kevin Pillar is an outstanding defender himself. And he hits the ball, man. The last 2 years, he's had 88 and 87 RBI respectively, man. So he's hitting. And Jackie Bradley really wasn't hitting last year. He put up some pretty decent numbers, I would say, but not Kevin Pillar numbers, man. And so I'll be very interested to see. If it was me, I'd put Verdugo, Benintendi, and Pillar out there, and you can't DH Bradley because JD's stuck there, and you certainly can't sit Mitch Moreland's bat either. So to me, Jackie's the odd man out. So I'm going to be very interested to see what they do with him, and Ron Renneke decides to throw out there in center field. That'll be a big-time thing to watch this season as it produces. So,
yeah.
So what do you got, David? Let's see here. I'm going to give you the key additions to this team this year, and I want you to give me the one that you feel is going to be the biggest add for this team this year. I got Alex Verdugo, Jose Peraza, who's their starting second baseman, Kevin Plawecki, and Kevin Pillar. So which one out of those guys? Well,
Verdugo is going to be the most interesting, I would say. He's going to have to produce. They traded away so much to get him. So he had a good year last year. I can't, dog on Verdugo too bad. You just think they would have got more. So I'm going to say their most important addition was Verdugo, but don't overlook Pillar either, like we just talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I really, they got 3 starters in my mind for that offense, which is, it's kind of weird that when you think about it, David, like they, instead of adding to this pitching staff in the offseason, they added 3 pretty much offensive starters, and I mean, they just kept piling on the offense, which is what you would think that they would not want to do with this team, but they ended up doing that. And I don't blame them for the guys that they got. they're really studly. I'm going to go with Verdugo as well, simply because Pillar's been playing for a long time, and I don't think he, he's got a few more good years in him probably. But when you got to get a guy like Verdugo who's young and very talented, he's only 24 years old, and last year showed a lot of promise with limited time role with the Dodgers, which is what a lot of these young guys were because they're so talented and so deep that when they were getting at bats, you got to take advantage of them. So in about 300 at bats, he had 12 bombs and 44 ribbies, and he hit about 300. So he had a real good season hitting, and he's a good player. So I think as far as just for now and the future going ahead, that the Verdugo pickup was the one that's going to stick a little more than Pillar, but I think those are both really good pickups. So what about Key? Go ahead.
Let me go back to Pillar real quick. I had to look. That was really a shrewd signing. They got him for 1 year, $4.25 million. And so, as bad an off season as I feel like that they had, that was a shrewd pickup for $4 million for 1 year. I mean, that was a great pickup.
It really was, and another bat to go in that lineup, man. And if he does, it's going to be hard to see him have 80 ribbies because I think he's going to be platooning, and like you said, maybe lefty righty. That's probably how they're going to run it, But when you pick that up, that's a bargain, really, to be honest with you. A guy who gets close to 90 RBIs the last 2 years, and you pick him up for 1 year at 4.5 is pretty much a steal. So good point on that. Key losses: Eduardo Nunez, Chris Owings, Julius Chassin, Mookie Betts, David Price, Brock Holt, Rick Porcello, Andrew Kashner. Andrew Kashner is kind of interesting because, David, if you didn't know this or not, when the Cubs got Anthony Rizzo from the Padres, all they got rid of is Andrew Kashner, who threw like 100 miles an hour. So, he was a little bit intriguing from that perspective. But I kid you not, when they got Rizzo, I was ecstatic, and I knew he was going to be an absolute stud. I really did from the beginning. So I was excited about that. So another great trade in Cubs history, Andrew Kashner for Anthony Rizzo.
Well, Andrew Kashner, I would say that he's a great comparison to Nathan Eovaldi. Same deal. He throws 100 miles an hour. He seems like he should put it together. And I remember when the Red Sox got him last year, I kind of thought to myself, this might be when he finally busts out. He was having kind of a decent season where he was, but sure enough, he came and immediately started throwing beach balls up there for people to hit and just got bombed. But if I could compare the way I feel about Nathan Eovaldi, it's the way probably Red Sox fans or Cubs fans feel about your boy there. So, but man, what a trade getting Rizzo. Wow.
Yeah, that was a good one. So you got to go with Mookie on that one, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's Mookie. We talked half the podcast already about what a bad trade that was. Now the Dodgers have. What do you think about these $300 million contracts, DJ? 12 years, well over $300 million. So right now, Mookie, I believe, is 27. So when you think about 12 years in that way, hey, he'll only be 39. Dude, that's a ton of money. Well, how do you feel about those big contracts?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous, but they're going to give it to him, man. So be it, I guess, and wow, good for him, man, because that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he can throw. Go ahead.
I don't have any problem from Mookie's standpoint at all. I just don't know sometimes, and this is probably why the Red Sox traded him. You're committing to paying a guy over $30 million a year in his age 35 through 39 seasons when they're probably going to do nothing. Look at Votto, for instance. Pretty much he turned 35 immediately, down he goes. And you could say that about, a lot of those guys. And I don't know how you get around it. Obviously those guys are worth the money. But a lot of these teams that have been winning haven't been winning with those big money guys. They've been farm raising these guys, locking them up early. And that's the way obviously you prefer to go. But, he earned his money. Like I said, I can't blame him at all.
The hard thing about this, David, is you would probably want to sign Mookie to about a 7-year deal, if you were honest about it, because you're probably going to get 7 solid years out of him coming up here. And then, probably let him go as he starts to hit that age. But the problem is if you don't go to that 12-year, they're not going to sign, and that's where these guys are getting the teams. They're getting them by doing that. They're like, well, give me my lifetime contract, or I'm walking, and then you miss out on the 7 solid years you're going to get out of them. So they know what they're doing, and that's what the hard part about all this is for teams is they probably come at them and say, 7, 200, and they're like, no. Give me 12 and 3.5 or I'm 350 or I'm walking. And you don't want him to walk because why in the world would the Dodgers let him go when they just are going to get a 60-game season out of him and they made the trade for him? And I would lock him up too, but that's kind of where they get him. So
I almost wonder if I was a GM, if I wouldn't almost rather pay him $40 million for 8 years. And that way, I'm not having to figure out, like the Yankees did with A-Rod, how can I keep this guy in the lineup? Because they were paying him $30 million this year. And so I almost wonder, like I said, it kind of weighs you down more for those 8 years. I'd love to have a GM on and have them explain that to me a little bit, because I've been through that as a Yankee fan. They're notorious for signing bad contracts. And like I said, then you're stuck with this guy that you have to keep on the roster or just let him go, release him. Like the Yankees did this year with Ellsbury. Like I said, they're paying him $25 million to not play for them. So anyway, that's just for conversation. I would love to have a GM or something on here at some point and explain the thought process behind both of those.
That'd be so much fun to be able to pick the brain of a general manager and get a little more details on the things that they got to go through with all this kind of stuff. And it'd be a lot of fun. It really would. So, so what do you think as far as the prospects go? This team got any good prospects you can think of?
So they've got a couple that are interesting. Their farm system is ranked towards the back. They obviously won a World Series recently, and so they, in doing that, drained their farm system to do it. I can't blame them for that. But one prospect to keep an eye on, because the Red Sox are so thin on pitching, is Jay Groom. So they drafted him in the 2016 draft. Because of signability issues, he dropped to the 12th pick. Some considered him a number 1 pick, but he's dealt with arm injuries. He's finally healthy again. Probably still a year or two away, but if I'm a Red Sox fan, I'm looking at him and hoping he can get it turned around. This will be his first action back. He had the surgery May of 2018. He pitched a little bit right at the end of last year, so he should be back to himself. So he's someone that if I was a Red Sox fan, I'd be interested in. Yeah,
so that's a good one. He's pretty high on their list as far as, just bring him up and throw him in the rotation.
Might as well.
Why not?
Exactly. I think I've been working out in the backyard a little bit and throwing.
Nice.
For a 60-game season, they might want to sign me.
I'm telling you, David, this is your opportunity, and I was going to get to this too. It's like, you need to go to Boston, and they're your arch nemesis, obviously, but hey, You know what? Maybe they can give you that money that they didn't give to Mookie, and you could throw a little my way, and we could all live happily ever after.
Hey, even though it's the Red Sox, if they would just pay me 1% of what they were going to pay Mookie, I'd be in.
Yes. You would go out there and throw until your arm fell off, and that would be it, man. I don't blame you one bit.
That's right.
So I'm going to go with Jeter Downs, and Jeter Downs is a stud. This kid has a terrible first name, but
awesome.
He's their number 1 prospect, number 44 overall in the MLB. He's 21 years old. He's 5'11", 180. He's a second baseman and a shortstop, but let's be honest, Dave, in this organization, he ain't playing short. So second base is where they need him the most. Last year, 24 bombs and 86 ribbies last year in the minors. Had 127 hits, 276 batting average, and 362 on base. Man, I'm telling you, I know that they've got, Jose Peraza, who they just signed as their second baseman right now. But, man, Jeter Downs is going to be breathing down his neck pretty soon here. He really is. If not this year, it's going to be next year. And from everything I've been reading, this guy's ready. Pretty doggone close to taking over at second base. He should be. I don't know how long they ended up signing Peraza for. Hopefully it was just a one-year contract. Is it really?
Yeah.
So, that's exactly what they're going to do then, because they're bridging the gap to when they think he's ready in 2021. And he's a real deal, man. So this is going to be your second baseman of the future. I really believe that. they can plug him in there. When you got Xander Bogaerts and a guy who hits like Jeter Downs up the middle, holy smokes, man. What an up the middle combination that is to have at shortstop and second base, guys that just mash like those two do. So, man, these guys are so close, David. They got to find ways to get some pitching, and then they're going to be just loaded for years to come. If they can figure this out, they're pretty close, but yet so far away at the same time.
So you're a Cubs fan. Who's your least favorite player of all time from any team?
Ooh, man. That's a good one. That's I gotta go with AJ Pierzynski.
Okay, so what if AJ Pierzynski's son got signed by the Cubs? How would you feel about that? I mean, you think about it as a Red Sox fan. The dude that's going to be playing second base for you is named after your arch nemesis. How awesome is that?
You know what that reminds me of what you just said there is probably second or third on that list of guys that I hate the most is Jim Edmonds. And Jim Edmonds came over and played with the Cubs for one season, and I had a very hard time rooting for that guy. I cannot stand Jim Edmonds.
I love that you brought Jim Edmonds up. I love it. So he still made probably one of the if I had to pick the greatest play that I ever saw, I think Jim Edmonds full out dive in center field is way up there. Come on, you got to admit that was amazing.
David, you know why he made that catch like that?
Doesn't matter. He made it
because he was standing 250 feet away from home plate and had run back for a routine ball for about 20 seconds and then dive when he should have been positioned correctly and just had to go back on a little bit and catch it normally. That guy, he's just showboat. Forget him.
Look here. What do you think about Jim Edmonds' Hall of Fame candidacy?
No.
8 Gold Gloves.
No.
393 homers from a center fielder.
No.
60.4 on the wins above replacement. DJ.
Stop it.
Those are Hall of Fame numbers.
Get out of here. Hall of Fame my butt. Not even close.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
I can't.
No. Better than Jim Rice.
Stop.
He's got better numbers than Jim Rice. Better numbers than Tim Raines.
No, he does not.
Yes, he totally does.
Stop it. Get off of that right now.
93 home runs. I'm gonna get you
8 Gold Gloves, my foot too. That's
I'm gonna get you a Jim Edmonds Cubs jersey.
Okay, well, along those lines, because you brought it up, who's your least favorite Red Sox of all time? This is an interesting.
Pedro Martinez. It's easy.
Is it really?
I hate Pedro. Well, I shouldn't say hate. I loved it so much when he had to say that the Yankees were his daddy. But dude, you pushed down like an 80-year-old man.
I hated that because I loved Don Zimmer, Cubs manager, all those years. Man, that did make me mad.
I couldn't stand that dude.
How are you going to throw an 80-year-old man on the ground? What's he going to do if he charges you?
Yeah. He did. In Pedro's defense, he did charge him. But he's 80 years old, and you're a professional athlete. What are you doing?
What is wrong with that guy? What is wrong with him?
Idiot. Again, he's on the idiots. He's just the poster boy for the idiots.
Pedro Martinez is a Hall of Famer, David.
He is a Hall of Famer, but the Yankees were his daddy.
That's awesome. I bet you could play that like every time you get a text message, it should be Pedro Martinez saying the Yankees are my daddy. Every time you get a text message, that'd be awesome.
There's a local pastor, one of my good friends, Rick Prine. Brother Rick, I hope you're watching this podcast, but he has us, me and another Yankee fan, in a group text. And every time the 2004 season comes up on MLB, we get a text that says, you guys might want to turn on MLB. There's something great on there. And my good friend texted him back there the other day, a meme of Pedro saying that the Yankees were his daddy. And it felt so good. I really don't have a comeback for the 2004 season. The Yankees had a big lead and squandered it. But I have to admit, it did feel pretty good.
That's awesome, man. I kept trying to remind myself all day when we were gonna talk Boston. I wanted to know not who your, I will get to who your favorite one of all time is, but I always wanted to know who your least favorite one is for these guys. That's pretty cool,
Really
man.
easy.
I'll have to remember that. That was easy for you. And just something else that popped in my head too. Since you brought it up, uh, we were trying to think of the MLB show. It's called Quick Pitch. That's the one that I love watching, man. I am so happy that Quick Pitch is back because I'm so sick of watching Sports Center and listening to the COVID and BLM and all this stuff that's going on right now. That's all they talk about. So I'm sick of that. Now it's just give me some baseball highlights, man. And
Amen.
it's great. What a great show. So every night you can watch all 15 games highlights, see all the stats that pop up, man. That is a great, great show. A lot of fun to watch for a lot of reasons. So
I agree with you.
big fan, man. And it's great to have that back. And I don't have to watch Sports Center, but for like 5 minutes now just to catch on some hockey highlights and move on from there.
Are they playing hockey, by the way?
August 1st, Blackhawks are in too.
In what?
The playoffs. The
playoffs are starting?
Because they're like baseball now. Just let everybody in, even if they're terrible. And let's have a big tournament.
We could do a whole episode on that, and I would lose my mind. When I heard they were doing that, I just so hate that idea, but whatever.
So, David, this is going to lead me right into our trivia question, and you better get this one because you've been groomed in this quick question for a long time now, and I'm gonna give it to you, and you got to remember this one because I've been beating this one into your head. So here we go. You ready?
This is bad.
Who was the first Red Sox player to break the .375 batting average in a single season? And I'm gonna give you another hint. He's the all-time career leader in doubles.
Oh. Tris Speaker.
Finally.
You finally got it in there.
Finally, you got it.
A couple times.
It's in your head now. Yes. I'm so proud of myself for teaching you that one.
You did. I would have never guessed that in a million years. So now, if I happen to get on a trivia show, I won't have to call the lifeline. I'll know that it's Tris Speaker.
So, like I said, man, we got Pete Rose, hits and singles, Barry Bonds, home runs, Sam Crawford as triples, and Tris Speaker as doubles, man. I'm so proud of you.
Where did Sam Crawford play? I got to know. I don't know who that is.
Detroit,
like in the early 1900s? Are we talking?
Yep.
Wow. Back then, they had those parks that were like a mile long. And so if they hit that sock that was supposed to be a baseball and it happened to roll out that far, you could probably run for days.
You got speed, and it goes into that kind of like at the Giants field. You get it up in the right center field there, and you got any speed, you're hitting triples all day. I'm hitting it out there. So
I'm thinking the Polo Grounds, if I'm not mistaken, it was 460 to center field or something crazy.
Yeah.
So if you're Jim Edmonds and you're playing at 250, you got to run 200 feet to make the over-the-shoulder face-first dive.
Routine catch, man.
Plays of all time.
I would have caught that like this because I would have been positioned correctly.
Oh. Hey, I got to tell you a funny softball story. So I was pitcher in college. Got pretty good at catching fly balls because basically other than pitch, that's all I was allowed to do for the first 3 years I was there. So softball season, I become an old man like everybody else and play softball. And we played in a church league. And I was playing left field. There's a long left field. And this dude just bombs one. And so I see it right off the bat, it's going to be over my head. And I take off running as hard as I could go. And DJ, I'm not exaggerating. I wish I could say I meant to. But I literally just stuck my glove out as I'm hitting the fence. Bam, right in the glove.
Really?
It was the craziest thing. I wish we'd had it on video because the whole place just went nuts. Even the other team were like, oh, my gosh, I can't believe you caught that. And it literally was just – I didn't even know where the ball was. So that's probably what Jim Edmonds was doing.
Did you bring it back or did you just catch it and run into the fence?
As my glove hit the fence, the ball went into it. I didn't even know where it was.
So would it have been a homer?
No, it wouldn't have been a homer. It would have been off the fence, basically.
So I got to tell you, as an outfielder pretty much my whole life, man, I've done pretty much everything in the game that you could possibly do. the one thing that I've never done in all my years of baseball, fast pitch softball, slow pitch softball, is bring one back, rob a home run. I've never, ever, ever done that. And hopefully before I die, and play softball for another 40 years. And hopefully one of these times I can bring one back, and you'll be one of the first people that I'll let know that I finally got one, man, because that's something that I've never had the opportunity to do. So
Are you not headed for first base or catcher yet? Or have you not crossed over?
I'll tell you what,
Close.
man, I'm getting close to getting out of that outfield, man, because I'm just pulling hammies and groins, and I can't hang out there anymore, man. They want me to play center field still, and I'm like, I go running for a ball like I'm 20 again. I'm my hammy, I'm telling you, man. Every year I just pull it, and I should start playing first, but I don't know, man. Pretty
Hold
funny.
on a second, DJ.
Yep.
What y'all doing?
But yeah, everybody out there, Tris Speaker, man, this guy, the all-time leader in doubles, and don't any of you forget that, because that's one of the biggest stats that there is, and nobody knows that. So it's pretty.
That's awesome.
So what do you got for trivia for me, David?
All right, I'm going to try to remember this off the top of my head. I don't have it in front of me. In 1990, the Red Sox won the AL East. And they had one player with over 20 home runs on the team. They led the league in batting and led the league in ERA, but only one guy over 20 homers. And I'm going to give you a list of players. I hope I can remember them all. You tell me which one you think it is. So we have Tom Brunansky. He was a slugger back in the day. Mike Greenwell. I definitely remember having some Topps Mike Greenwell cards. He was kind of a big name back then. We have Ellis Burks. If you look at just his numbers, borderline Hall of Famer, but he played in the Rockies, and people
Ellis Burks, borderline Hall of Famer?
Look it up. If you just go by his numbers and don't take into account where he played, I'll pull him up here, and you can I'm gonna read these numbers off to you. Hold on, give me just a second. I think we had this discussion one day. Ellis Burks, 352 homers, 2,100 hits, won a Gold Glove, 2 Silver Sluggers, 50 on the WAR. So he's not a borderline Hall of Famer, but he had a good career. But he kind of gets overlooked a lot because, again, he played for the Rockies all those years. So out of those guys, DJ, who had more than 20 bombs?
Ellis Burks.
I led you right into it, didn't I?
Yeah. Boom.
Career 291 hitter, man. That's some good hitting.
He's a very good player. There's no doubt. But come on, you're getting crazy. You're starting to throw Jim Edmonds and Ellis Burks in the Hall of Fame. It's getting late, man. We have Hall of Fame debates all the time. You got to be kidding me. Get out of here.
Has a great case for the Hall of Fame. Ellis Burks does not, but Jim Edmonds has a great case.
That's why he lasted on the ballot for 1 year. That's a pretty great case.
That's terrible. If he only lasted 1 year, that's terrible.
Paul Konerko lasted 1 year, and he had a way better career than Jim Edmonds.
Oh, no. Paul Konerko is like 30 WAR shy of my boy Jim Edmonds, the greatest.
We're talking about WAR, David. We're talking about WAR. We already had this discussion about how stupid WAR is. Until you can figure out and tell me how WAR works, stop bringing that stat up. Stop it.
It basically gives defense a number.
Don't tell me WAR anymore. I don't want to hear WAR. No.
393 homers, DJ, and the greatest defensive center fielder of all time.
No, stop. Not even close. Get out of here. Killing me, man.
Angels in the outfield, man. I mean, he made the play. That was it.
What a terrible showboater. That's all he was. So, David, Fenway Park, have you ever been?
No. It is definitely a dream of mine to go to a Yankees-Red Sox series in Fenway Park.
Yeah.
That being said, I never realized how small that park is. I mean, it's tiny. I'm thinking the capacity in that thing is just above 30,000. I don't have it in front of me. But, man, Red Sox fans are awesome. They were third in the league last year in attendance. I looked that up the other day, and so it's pretty amazing. But all kinds of history there. I think it's so cool that they put seats up at the top of the Green Monster there years ago. I remember that when those weren't there. So I would love, love, love to go to Fenway Park.
So I've got my map here, everybody. This is my map. It's hard to see the check marks of where I've been and where I haven't been, but I'm about halfway there. And of all the ones that I have not seen, the Red Sox Fenway Park is number one on the ones I need to see. Uh, I agree 100% too. To be honest with you, I mean, this may sound a little crazy, but I would rather probably go to Fenway and watch a Yankees Red Sox game than watch a Cubs Red Sox game. And I'm just being honest about that because I would love to be in that atmosphere when they're playing the rivals. That would be the ultimate experience to go to Fenway and watch them play the Yankees, I believe. Man, it's just everything about that stadium, the history, the oldness of it, the Green Monster. I mean, how cool is that you got that big old thing out there in left field, and
Yeah.
just all the players that have gone through there. I'm pretty sure they've got some awesome statues there to look at. Probably got a lot of fun things to do at that stadium. I don't know too much about how fan friendly it is and everything. You just kind of see what you see on TV. Would love to go watch a game at Fenway. By far number one on the bucket list of teams I haven't seen yet. Man, that would be a lot of fun.
How awesome would it be to have to take BP at Fenway? I mean, if I could pick a park to take BP at, that would be it. I would love to try to hit one over the Monster. It would be awesome.
Could you imagine that, man? And these guys, if I'm not mistaken, there's like an expressway just beyond that left field wall there, and then parking on the other side of it. And those guys are hitting those cars all the time, man.
It's
you
awesome.
figured they would put a net on or something, or figure out that cars are getting hit too much, and I don't know, kind of weird that they had that set. I'm not 100% sure about that either, but I think that's the way it's set up. And yeah, man, we definitely gotta figure out a way to get to Fenway, man. That would be so much fun to. I don't know how expensive their tickets are. I'd imagine it'd be pretty hard to get a ticket there.
Yeah. I mean, a Yankees Red Sox series, you're not going to sit on a lower level. Me and you couldn't afford it probably. Yeah. Yeah, it's super expensive. But like I said, I mean, that's one of the advantages of having a 30,000 seat stadium. So.
Very true, man. Definitely one we got to get to. That's an awesome one, no doubt. So, okay, this is one I've been waiting for too. I'm excited to hear who your favorite all-time Red Sox player is, David. This I got to hear.
Tom Bernansky. No, I'm just kidding. So, I hate to admit this, but I was quietly a fan of the biggest Yankee killer ever, and that's David Ortiz. I like me some Big Papi. Man, it was so frustrating, honestly, as a Yankee fan. Every time they needed a run, somehow, it was like they just put him in the lineup, like skip somebody in the order, and there stands David Ortiz. And he got it like every time. But I love to watch that dude hit. It's amazing to me that the Twins let him get by. Definitely the best DH of all time. To me, that's not even arguable. You might want to argue for your boy Edgar, but not happening. And one of the reasons why is he was just so clutch. You know, even when they weren't playing the Yankees in some of these World Series games and playoffs games, when he came up to bat, you could almost guarantee that he was going to come through. So as bad as I hate to admit it, it had to be Big Papi.
That's actually pretty shocking to me, to be honest with you. I'd never thought you were going to go that route. that's kind of funny to hear that, man. That kind of be like me saying Jim Edmonds is my favorite Cardinal player of all time or something.
I just have to respect him, man. I mean, he just kind of owned the Yankees. I mean, he was our daddy for a bunch of years. And at first it was real annoying, and then it became almost a little bit, in a way, amusing. It was just like, oh, here we are. You know, they're down 3 runs, and it's runners on second and third, and here comes Big Papi. Great. You know, and boom, there goes a home run. It was just over and over and over and over. And I just kind of got to the point where I just respected him, man. All I could do is tip my cap. He was awesome.
So give me the really, really short version because I don't want to go there tonight. But I can't remember which commissioner said the David Ortiz steroid case should be thrown out the window when he comes up for the Hall of Fame. Agree or disagree?
I don't know anything about his steroid case. You're going to have to inform me a little bit on that.
So he apparently was rumored to be on illegal substances at one time. And I can't remember who threw him under the bus. but one of the commissioners had come out and said that should never be brought up again, and that his case should be wiped clear. So I want you to kind of look into that a little bit if you get a chance and kind of see.
You're going to hate my answer on it because you know how I feel about the steroid era. I believe they were all doing it, DJ. All of them.
Okay, well, from the perspective of me not letting any of them in, are you going to let me let him in based off of
no
what the commissioner said? Or I don't know, man. He's a guy I can't figure out.
So if honestly, you know how this is with steroids, it's like a lot of other things in our country right now. You're guilty until proven innocent. And so, I mean, if you want to use his case like everybody else that's been accused of it, then he's guilty. And I don't doubt that he was using them at all. Like I said, I mean, Andy Pettit's probably not going to make it to the Hall of Fame, and he supposedly used it once. But, he's not going to make it with 250 wins and all those clutch performances. And so if you're using your litmus test, there's no way Ortiz should be in because he got accused of it. Yeah. Is that how you're going to fall on this?
Probably, because he got thrown under the bus by somebody pretty badly there. So we'll see. That's going to be an interesting one.
Hall of Fame of real deserving players and put it in Elkview, West Virginia. I'm so disappointed. The good players, the great players, are not in it, but these supposedly clean guys, because we don't know because they never got accused. Yeah, don't even get me started. I can't even go there tonight. This is for the Hall of Fame episode.
I just wanted the 2-minute version on that one because since you brought him up, that's going to be an interesting one when we get to that. Let me
ask you something, DJ. Just we'll get off this. If you had to bet your life that Jeff Bagwell did not use steroids, would you do it?
No.
And you're going to let him in?
Wasn't.
Because somebody didn't rat him out yet.
Wasn't in the Mitchell, wasn't in any of that kind of stuff.
Was Ortiz in the Mitchell?
Positive. No, but Ortiz has got something on him, and I can't remember what it is. I should have probably researched that, but I just brought it up on a whim here because
let me back up. None of these guys tested positive, and do you know why? They weren't testing anyone. You don't know. I won't be able to sleep tonight. I'm going to be so active.
All right, so forget that. We spent 2 minutes more than I wanted to on that. Ted Williams. Ted Williams is my Red Sox. They're one of the greatest hitters of all time. I really believe that.
Also one of the biggest jerks. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Oh, get out of here. Big jerk how? Huh?
DJ,
how is he a jerk?
Read any book about Ted Williams. He was a number one butthole. Oh, yeah. But let me tell you, I totally respect Ted Williams as well. One of the greatest hitters, if not the greatest. He's way up there, hitter of all time, and a war hero. So I like me some Ted Williams. Look it up. He was an idiot.
You're just saying that because he's a Red Sox.
Oh, no. I mean, the dude wanted his brain frozen, okay? Or so he could clone himself. He's an idiot.
He's one of the best hitters of all time. I'd like to come back as his clone. That way I can make the majors and make millions.
The best. Look, hey, seriously, do a little bit of research on him and his son and that whole routine. The guy was a number one moron.
I will look that up, and you look up the David Ortiz steroid case. That's our homework. All right, so his numbers, 344 career average, 521 homers, 1,839 ribbies, 24 age, 25 age, and 26 age years. He served in the military. So if he is on the same pace he's on, he just lost out on 100 homers there. He had 2 seasons where he hardly played because he was hurt. So if you add on, let's say, another 30 just to be safe on that, Ted Williams missed out on about 160 more home runs out of those 5 years, 3 in the military and 2 hurt, where he could have possibly hit about 680 home runs, David. And not only was he a 344 average guy, but he was on pace, if everything would have gone right, to be a 680 homer guy. Amazing. Unbelievable.
And a hero. I mean, and a hero. And I have so much respect for those guys who lost seasons in the career. Can you imagine, DJ, coming up and finding out you're going to have to lose 3 of your best years. I mean, it would hurt. It would really hurt. And for him to do that, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was a pilot. So much respect, for what those guys did. It's amazing.
And when he came out in the All-Star game that one year and throughout the first pitch with Gwynn holding him, and some of the guys that were in that All-Star game are legends, man. And you had Ted Williams, one of the biggest legends of all time, come out. Give you goosebumps moment in baseball history, no doubt. By far, my favorite Red Sox. When you think of Red Sox, he's got to be number one. A guy that pops into your head. They've had some awesome players over the year, man. One of the guys I want to give a little love to is Nomar, man. Nomar, when we Cubs got him that one year, it was just like a pipe dream. It didn't seem real. He ended up not doing too much for us. He was okay. He was a pretty good player, but I'll tell you what, Nomar stays healthy his whole career. He's a shoo-in Hall of Famer, and it's a shame his career got derailed by injury. But another guy I really liked for the Red Sox was Nomar. Pretty awesome guy. So, David, our last little segment here, former teammates. Can you think of the one guy that we played with that was a Red Sox fan?
So it has to be one of those northern guys. And there was a lot of them, right?
Actually, he was not a northern guy.
Wow.
He was from Louisville. And he was.
Did I play with him? Because there was that one year you were there first.
He was probably that one year that I was there first, but you do know him. So he probably turned to basketball by the time that you had got there.
Scotty Collier, Mr.
Yes,
Defense,
sir.
the glove.
Yes, sir.
Scotty, if you're watching this, I'm just going to admit this. You're one of my favorite basketball players to watch. If there was ever a player that was tearing up Temple, and they won a national championship during this time.
Yep.
Scotty Collier got assigned to him. Hardly ever scored, but he was an absolute menace on defense. So, love to watch that dude play.
And I'll get back to Scotty, but man, Steve Robinson was a dog. He is the greatest player to come through Temple by far on basketball side. And this guy was unbelievable.
I wouldn't say that.
Who you got above him?
Well, there was those years in the early 80s, late 70s. Man, they won a bunch of championships, and I didn't see any of those guys play. But definitely when we were there, Steve was just head and shoulders above anyone. If I'm not mistaken, he had signed with Temple or St. Joe's, one of those, a D1 school, a legit team. And, man, he was so much fun, so fast. He could just get up and down the floor, and those were some awesome years, man. I love going to those Temple basketball games, and, just Josh Templeton. He had an awesome career there. Several of those guys, man. Craig Price. Those were some fun teams. But I'm with you, man. I love to watch Steve Robinson play some basketball.
I'm going to go with the GOAT. I'm going to call him the GOAT. I don't care about those old guys. I saw that guy play, man. He could shoot fast, the whole deal. And Scotty was a lot of fun to watch play basketball, too. Like you said, defensive stalwart, man. He was unreal on defensive end and basketball court. Good baseball player, too. Played shortstop up the middle for us. I got a funny story about Scotty, man. We were all, the whole entire campus. We were all leaving. It was where we were all like in the dining room area and where the mailboxes were. The whole school was there. And Scotty comes running, and he was chasing me, man. And we were running down the streets. And I kid you not, it was a whole school, man. And I had my backpack, and I'm running down the street. And Scotty grabs my backpack, takes all my books out, and just starts running and dumping my entire books, notebooks, everything I had in my book bag was all over campus, man. He dumped it everywhere, and I could not stop laughing, man. I had like 15 people because they were so nice, just helping me pick up everything. But I was laughing so hard. That's a low blow, man. And he never would have caught me because Scotty was not faster than me, but I just got so tired because he was chasing me so long. And he finally caught up to me, man, because he wasn't going to give up. Because if you know Scotty, he just never gives up. He just keeps going and going and going. That's his personality. But it was so funny, man. I laughed so hard about that. So I'm sure you remember that, Scotty. But that was pretty funny, man. But, no, he was a good teammate. And, he's always, talking about the Red Sox. And he's a big, big fan. So giving you a little love tonight, Scotty. So hope you're doing well, buddy. So with that, David, unless you got anything to add, man, to your arch nemesis here, then we'll wrap it up.
Nah, man, I don't want to say another word about them. I hope they never win another game.
I love it, man. I was looking forward to this one. I'm a big Red Sox guy. Probably top 6, 7 team for me. I love the Red
I don't
Sox.
know
So
about you, DJ.
I wish them good luck this year. I hope they do well in the AL East, although that pitching will not allow them to. So
I'm a Cardinals fan. They're my favorite team outside the Yankees. And Jim Edmonds is my favorite Cardinal ever. I can't wait to talk about him more.
all right, Red Sox fans. So we're gonna wrap this one up, and good luck to you guys this season. And David, it's been a pleasure, man. Another fun episode, and we got to get to another one here pretty soon, and we're getting close to the end. So we'll be switching over to some different type of podcast really soon. So thanks to our 15 fans for listening. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you all later.
See ya.